So this past week, I hit 3,000 subscribers. Huge, gigantic, enormous thank you to all of you that have liked, subscribed, commented, shared it with your buddies, whatever you've done to help the channel out. I greatly appreciate it. And just even some of you guys, thank you so much for being good friends, being great people to talk about movies down in the comment sections over on Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. It's meant so much to me. It's been so much fun. And hopefully this is just the beginning and we'll see where things go from here. With that said, I said we'd do a Q&A. I asked you guys for questions and you gave me 200 questions or something. So more than I could do in any one video. So yesterday I did a live stream. Today I'm going to answer another section of the questions. And then tomorrow or Wednesday, I'm going to put out a whole nother additional group of the questions. So today what I'm going to be talking about is personal questions, opinion questions that aren't related directly to movies, fashion and dating advice, and then YouTube-y type questions. So that's what we're talking about today. I'm not going into specifically movie and TV opinion stuff. That's coming in a few days. And what I'm going to try and do is put categorize the questions down below that I'm answering so you can skip ahead to yours. I'll put a few time codes in there so you can easily find where it's at and get your question answered. Or if you like some of the questions people like, you can skip ahead and find some of those in there. With that said, let's get started. So let's start off just with some personal questions. Right, starting things off, Ryan O'Toole, who's one of my patrons over on Patreon, and I give special treatment to their questions. Have you ever traveled outside of the United States? If so, where did you go? So, I've been 3 places outside of the United States, depending on your sense, 4 of them. So I'm in Texas, so I've been to Mexico, I don't know, 10 times. I'm Mexico a bunch of times because it's not too far away. It's actually been, I think it's been 15 years since I've been to Mexico. But, you know, when I was 0 to 20, I went there once a year, once every other year. So I went there a lot. And I went to Canada for 45 minutes back when I was in middle school. We went up to New England. So we were going up to, you know, Boston and New York City and went to Washington, D.C. Just kind of like the whole tour. All that fun stuff. And while we were there, we're like, hey, we're only an hour away from Canada. Let's go up to Canada. We drove up to Canada, drove into French Canada. So we didn't understand anything. So we didn't stay in Canada for very long. Then when I was in the 5th grade, we went to Hong Kong for a week. My family, before I was born, well, my sister was born here in the States. And then my dad took a job in Hong Kong, and then he took a job in Singapore. So there was about 3 years there where my family, right before I was born, lived in Singapore and Hong Kong. When they became pregnant with me, they moved back here. So they always wanted to go back. And thus, when I was in the 5th grade, I went to Hong Kong for a week, which I have really cool memories of it. But man, it would be so much cooler had I been able to go in high school, college, later in life. When you go in the 5th grade, you can't really appreciate a trip like that. You just don't have the cultural knowledge. You don't have the big picture thinking to even have a perspective of what do I want to see while I'm here? What am I interested in? But actually, come to think, this happens to be right here. On that trip to Hong Kong, we bought this Game Boy off the black market, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well, but with it, it came with this game, and you can see kind of there's a list of games on it. The disc has 18 different games on it, and I mean it's got Mario Land, it's got Dr. Mario, it's got the tennis game, so it's got at least 3 major games on it. Plus, it has hacked versions of 5 of the games. So it's got a hacked version of Mario Land where you have 100 lives. So I went to Hong Kong once and I got a black market Game Boy with a hacked Game Boy cartridge that was incredible. And then the 4th one's kind of going outside of the United States. And so I've been to the Navajo Nation 5 times for mission work there. And it's inside of the United States, obviously, but it's technically its own thing. So in a certain sense, it's leaving the United States, though it's inside of the United States. So I don't know technically how that would be considered. Next question, Iker Alvarez. Have you ever been in Guatemala? No, I've been to the 4 places outside the United States that I just mentioned. Zach Pope asks, favorite high school memory? Man, I don't know. I've been thinking about this one since I read it a day or 2 ago. And I didn't have like this dreadful high school experience. I just didn't have necessarily a good high school experience. Just kind of shy, kind of stuck to myself, had some family stuff going a lot during high school. So I don't have like a lot of like these big, strong favorite high school memories, even sort of like the fun type stuff, the normal high schooler hang out with buddy type stuff. I actually did that after I was graduated high school and was going to community college. And so the best friend of mine was he was 2 years younger than me. So then he became really social. So I was really social with his friend group at a different high school when I was a freshman and sophomore in college. So my favorite high school memory, I don't know. I used to make a lot of these wacky videos with my friends. We'd even shoot them like at the place where I worked at Chick-fil-A. I was in a band and we did a concert once where we were throwing muffins at the crowd. That was pretty fun. But high school is a really weird period for me to think about. Just very odd, awkward human being, as you probably could have guessed. So I don't have one. I've been trying to come up with. I can't do it. Chad Middleton asks, what are some of your worst movie theater experiences? All right, worst movie theater experiences. I went to go see Jupiter Ascending at a press screening, and it was in 3D, and the whole movie was out of focus. The whole movie was out of focus. So this is like all the press in Austin. So the Austin News, the guys from ain'titcoolnews.com, some several movie blogs are there. And it's out of focus. And I'm in this like second or third row. So I'm in the front section. So it's uncomfortable anyway. 3D out of focus. And it's a bad movie or whatever you would call that movie. It's not everyone's taste. And one of the big things that's good about it is the visuals and the action. And the whole time you're like, because it was out of focus. And my buddy with me kept getting out to go try and complain, and then they'd try and fix it. And so then it would go in and out of like focus, worse and slightly better and worse and slightly better, never good. And so when it's doing that kind of out of focus thing, it kind of strains your eyes a little bit, but it's 3D as well. So that one kind of sticks out as just a pretty rough theater experience. When I was in high school, I went to go see 10 Things I Hate About You. And the audio was screwed up, and that's a big. I love that movie, but the audio was screwed up. And I actually, as an arrogant 17-year-old, however old I was when I saw that, and this was 6 months or so, just a handful of months before Phantom Menace came out. And so I wrote an email to the movie theater like, if you guys don't get your stuff together, I'm gonna send an email to Lucasfilm and tell them you guys have bad audio and you're not gonna get Star Wars. As if that would be a successful tactic. And the dumbest thing about this theater is in Abilene. I live in Austin. My sister went to college in Abilene at the time. But it's not like this was a theater I went to all the time. It's a theater I would go to like one time per year visiting my sister in college. So the whole thing was just kind of funny. So that one had horrible audio. The one was out of focus. Yeah, those are the two that kind of come to mind. I had some just funny, wacky ones and stuff, but those ones come to mind as just bad, like unpleasant things were screwed up about the experience of it. OTG713 asks, do you sing in the car? Absolutely, I do. Have for a long time. That's actually how I learned to harmonize when singing, was putting Weezer on, the band Weezer. Old Weezer. I haven't listened to anything they've done in 10 years, but their old stuff from the almost said the 80s. I'm losing it. From the 90s, and just sit in my car and sing along and harmonize along with them. And that's how I learned to harmonize, just sitting in my car, like belting it out. It's like my dog just walked up. Oh. Buddy, you could have been on camera. So I would sing along, practice. That's how I learned to harmonize. So it's just kind of a fun little thing there. Next up, Rich from Rich Reviews, another one of my patrons. Once again, they get preferential treatment in these sorts of deals. What would you do if OJ Simpson moved next door to you? Probably nothing. I mean, I'm not messing around with his ex-wife, girlfriend, or anything like that. Hopefully my wife's not doing that either, so I think we're good to go. It seems like he's more of a crime of passion kind of man than a serial killer. And beyond that, you can there's websites out there where you can just look up where the sexual deviants and predators in your area are. And it's already terrifying just to know this world's a scary, scary place, even if OJ Simpson doesn't live next door to you. He also asked, would you ever travel to North Korea? A lot of people want to know about my travel plans. I'd probably prefer to go to South Korea if I was going to go to a Korea. But what are you eating? Oh, what are you eating? I don't know what my dog's eating, but if he starts puking soon, you guys were there when I warned him. But so, I mean, I just don't know that there's any reason to go to North Korea. It's not like a cultural hub. The reason you'd go there is just to say I went to North Korea. So the novelty of that isn't particularly high for me. So probably would never go to North Korea. Next up, B. Weiss, also a patron, asked, if you could live in one place in Middle Earth, where would it be? I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. I'm not a Middle Earth guy. So I don't have like a depth of knowledge to be able to give an insightful opinion on that. Like I just don't know. So I couldn't tell, like anything I would say. I would just be like, I remember this name, and at the moment, it's the Shire and Mordor, and so those I don't want to live in either one of those. So some exciting other place, but I just don't know because I'm not enough of a Middle Earth guy. He also asked, would you rather live as a hobbit or as a ghost? I'm going to go with a hobbit because you can actually grab things and interact with the world around you. With a ghost, it's fun to scare people and spook people a little bit, but that whole, like, you can't actually interact with things, and that's kind of a downer. So I go with a hobbit. My voice cracked. Doesn't matter, I'm in my 30s, my voice still cracks. It doesn't matter that you're a hobbit, or excuse me, it doesn't matter if you're a ghost and have all sorts of cool stuff, you can't interact with people, so that's pretty bad. Now, if you're a hobbit, you're short, you got hairy feet, that's pretty nasty, but you can interact with people. You can have a fun life. You can hang out with the other hobbits, and then everyone else is just like you, so who cares? So, that's kind of where I'd head with that one. All right, moving on. Austin Willcut. He's got a couple serious ones here. Not really personal, but they're more opinion pieces that don't fit into my next categories. Do you feel Christians get too much crap from people nowadays? So, if by chance you're checking this out and you're kind of new, I'm a Christian, actually used to work at a church over communications and in student ministry, backup preacher, whole bunch of stuff in church world. And I'll probably go back to church world eventually. Working in church world, I'm still go to church and everything like that. But do I think that Christians get a lot of crap from people nowadays? Or do I feel like they get too much crap from people these days? I would say, my dog's back. Oh, here. There he is. He didn't say hi. I thought he'd say hi. Do I think they get... I think the problem with the question and the problem with the reason I'd say yes to it, the reason I'd say no to it, is the same thing, and that's we're talking about a group of people that's tens of millions of people just in the United States. Just in the United States, tens of millions, depending on your definition. Over 100 million people fall into the category of Christians. Globally, over 1 billion people fall into the category of Christians. So the question is, do Christians get too much crap from people? Well, you're talking about so many people that the answer is yes and the answer is no. And the reason that some people are just so brutal and harsh and stop doing that, Bo. I didn't hit him. I scared him. Don't do that. The reason that people give too much crap to some Christians is because they view Christians as a single monolithic thing that hold prejudicial views, hateful views, that voted for Trump, that stand for all kinds of things. And there's Christians that did that, and there's Christians that didn't do that. There's Christians all over the place. And so they treat all people in the category of Christians the same way, which is prejudice. It's not a good thing to do. And then likewise to the question of some people get too much crap. Well, some Christians deserve an enormous number of all the crap that they're getting. They deserve. If you're a Christian and you showed up to a white supremacist Nazi rally in North Carolina a couple months ago, you deserve all the crap that you're getting. That's fully on you. But some people take that and say, look at how Christians are. They showed up to a white supremacist rally, and then they take that against all Christians. I didn't show up to a white supremacist rally. I didn't do that. I'm not a neo-Nazi. I'm not doing any of these sorts of insane things that they're doing. But people are applying what a small niche group of people did to the whole. And that's a problem. So it's tough to give a simple answer to. I think that, and it's a frustrating way to talk about it because there's things right now about the way that Christians are treated that are very uniquely, there's a level of prejudice that can be overt towards Christians that's just accepted. On the flip side, there's a level of just because they been the majority of the established group of people here for a long time. There's many ways in which they have things much easier than other categories, and things are assumed that they can do and be treated a certain way because of it. So it's a very odd mix of, there's just, people can say such overtly horrible, prejudicial, targeting Christians for negativity, and it's just kind of like shrugged off like, what's that? I mean, you guys are complaining about being oppressed. What are you talking about? Well, because this is clearly people treating us differently. And then there's other things where there's kind of some assumed privilege per se, in the way that Christians kind of assume that we can operate, and, that if you were outside of our group would seem very odd. That, like, when people talk about, if you were to take some of the things where Christians talk about, hey, can we put the 10 Commandments up on the wall? We have to stop and think. If it was a Muslim teacher, would you let them be okay if they put the Quran up on the wall? Or obviously quotes from it. And if you'd be okay with one, you should be okay with the other. And there are people like, no, of course you shouldn't put the Quran up on the wall. Well, then why would you say it would be okay? And those types of thinking that some people don't think through. So it's a question that's very difficult to answer very quickly, because it's a very complex question, because it's talking about an enormous category of people. Austin Willcut asks, what is your take on the Harvey Weinstein scandal? I think it makes all of Hollywood look really, really bad. It just makes Hollywood as a culture look really bad, because everybody's known Harvey Weinstein is a creep for a long time. There were jokes about it on 30 Rock. Seth MacFarlane joked about it at the Oscars about 4 years ago. So it's at that level to where it's boiling over to the point that to the public they're cracking jokes about, yeah, this guy just sleeps with chicks to put him in movies. It's been at that level for at least 5 years. I don't know when the 30 Rock joke was, maybe even more than 5 years going back that happened. That's hypocrisy. The blatant, overt hypocrisy, the blatant, overt selfishness of, I gained from this, so I'm not going to say anything. Like, I know he's up to no good, but I don't want to screw my career up. There's so much about it that just puts Hollywood in a horrible light. And it's even so many of the responses that just seem like, I am shocked and appalled to learn about these things. If I had known, I would have. And you just go, but you did know. Seth MacFarlane cracked a joke at the Oscars. The joke's funny because everybody knew what was going on. And if it wasn't true, if nobody knew about it, they'd be like, what is Seth talking about? I don't get it. If people didn't know it was shady, you couldn't do the Harvey Weinstein joke on 30 Rock. So that's my immediate take on, Harvey Weinstein. It just makes Hollywood look horrible. And they need to have some amount of just reset in what they're doing. All right, so that was all the questions in the personal section, or the my opinion section on it. Let's move on to the next section. Fashion and dating advice. Wonderful. Devon Pilgrim asks, how do you get your hair to be so majestic? Well, I put a hat on, of course. All right, if for some reason you actually care about how I do my hair during the work week, when I'm not concerned as much about it, I just don't want it moving around I have a lot of calyx, so my hair doesn't actually stay where I want it to go. So I use a lot of hairspray. I buy the cheapest can they have, and I use Mega Hold during the week. So either I get out of the shower and try and blow dry it a little bit, use a brush and brush it back, and then douse it in enormous amounts of hairspray so that it doesn't move around. And also wear a hard hat from time to time and all sorts of things, to where I just want my hair to stay like a rock hard shell on my head during the day. So that, if it didn't, it would be like little hairs doing stuff like this, and it would look crazy. So a wall of hairsprays, most of what you see during the week. During the weekend, when I want it to look a little bit nicer and I'm going out in public, for church or whatever sorts of things I use this American Crew foaming cream, and I'll rub it in my hands, get my hair mostly almost dry, and then I rake it through my hair and pull off to the sides over here and do a little bit like this. Try to get more kind of waves and texture, volume to my hair. And then once I do that, I pull out my hairspray and use the Mega Hold to get it to stay in place, for the same reason of, once again, my hair doesn't like to stay in place very much. But this one, I only use this one probably 1 or 2 days per week, and gets the nice fuller volume and texture look to it, versus kind of the more clearly brushed look that you get during the work week. That is my secret to getting my hair to look the way it does. The Movie Man 191 had 2 questions. How do you tell a girl that you you're in love with her. So how do you tell a girl that you're in love with her? He also asked one, how do you tell a girl you just want to be friends? They're kind of this similar sorts of advice, so I'll kind of answer them together. So how do you tell a girl that you love her? Well, it's tough to answer this one as a generic question because the context of it kind of makes a big, gigantic difference. If there's a girl you haven't even asked out on a date and you're in the friend zone, that's one thing. If it's a girl you're not even on the friend zone in, and you just want to go and tell her you love her, and it's your babysitter, perhaps. I watched this movie called The Babysitter, and there's a little tween boy in love with his teenage babysitter. Perhaps that's your situation. Perhaps you're dating the person you want to tell the person you're dating. These are each very different sorts of answers. If you're the tween and you want to tell your babysitter, just probably go ahead and don't do that. Or unless if you're like charismatic enough and you just want to do something cute, you can go ahead and do that. If you're in the friend zone, and you want to let your buddy in the friend zone know you want to transition from the friend zone to something else, or at least get it out there. Like, you just got to get it out there. The point of the question, I guess, is to say that how do I do this to minimize the awkward? Is kind of, how do I minimize the ramifications of this? And the reality is there's no way to minimize the ramifications, the negative of an I love you. And I love you is a very powerful thing to say, especially if you're in the friend zone and you take your friend off to the side and you sit down in any location, whether it's a romantic location, it's a sterile living room location, it's at the cafeteria, school, wherever you do this one is weird and it's awkward and you might get totally rejected and you might have the girl of your dreams tell you yes, or tell you she loves you back. No matter what, it's a hard, difficult conversation, or not difficult, not the right word. It's a conversation that could go really bad for you. And I think the key thing is there's no way to remove that. And it's just knowing, yeah, you are taking a risk. You're putting yourself out there and it can make things awkward moving forward. And as soon as you're about the age 20, you know someone that's done this. As soon as you hit 25, you know about 10 people who've done this. You hit 30, 20 people that have done this. And they've kind of had all the different versions of it play out. And some of them it gets weird, and or whether you've heard people do it or had it done to them, the stories exist out there. So how do you do it? You find an environment that's the most least intimidating or uncomfortable for that person, or a place where no matter how they respond, it's okay. So if you want to tell the girl you're in the friend zone with that you love her, and you do it at halftime at the big football game, and you like have her come out on the field in front of everybody and you go, I love you, you're probably a terrible person. This is never going to work out, because that's a horrible thing to do to someone, to put them in that situation. If it's a friend of yours, you go have a fun time, go to the movies, something like that, whatever you do to hang out with this person. And at kind of the end of the evening when you're saying goodbye, no one else is around. It can talk as long if they want to talk for a while they can, or if they want to go inside and say, I just need to process what you just said. And you just put it out there directly and clearly what you're actually thinking, that where someone else isn't there's not weight on the person to have a response. There's not weight on the person because other people watching. You're not expecting anything from them. You can stay and talk, or they can go inside. But you're basically putting the ball in their court. You're putting something pretty heavy on them. They can have a lot of different responses, and you don't know what their response is going to be, or else you wouldn't be asking the question. And likewise, there's a lot of things that could happen. So that's what you want to do. Find a place where they'll feel safe. They don't feel like other people are watching, and where they have the ability to leave afterwards or stay and talk. You want to find something like that so that you can actually process that moment as it transpires. And if you're in a dating relationship, it's kind of I would say that, you just kind of just need to do it if that's what you feel you need to do, and if you need to say to the person. There's no easy way to take the weight off of that. It's just kind of one of those ones that if that's what you're really feeling and you think that there's a future in this and it's worth saying, find a place where you can say it, that if they need to process and leave, they can, or if they can stay and talk, they can, but that you're not putting them in a scenario where they feel like, I have to have a response right now to this person. You don't want to do that. So it's similar sorts of advice. The other one you sort of asked elsewhere was, how do you tell someone you just want to be friends? So it's kind of the flip side of this one. It's the kind of opposite thing, where there's someone that clearly likes you, things might be heading in a direction, and there's an imbalance in it, that you want to be friends and they seem to want something more. So how do you tell them that? It's essentially the same exact sort of thing of you just have to be plainly, bluntly with people. Especially if you're a girl talking to a guy, you just have to be blunt, brutal with them. Like, this is not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. This is not going anywhere in that direction. I want to be your friend, but we're not going to be a romantic thing. That's just not going to, and you just have to be overly blunt. Even if you're thinking in your head, it's like 90% chance we're friends, 10% chance of dating in your mind. If that's what you're thinking, like, yeah, maybe don't even say that. Don't put the 10% out there, because that's all guys hear. Remember in the Dumb and Dumber is one of the jokes in it where girls like, it's like a 1 in a million chance, like, maybe if you're 1 in a million or something, like, I don't forget the setup of the joke was, but the idea was she wouldn't date this guy in a million years, and he goes, so you're telling me there's a chance a guy that's desperate and in love, that's what he sees is the hope in whatever statement is made. So you just have to be blunt and clear, and depending on the person, depending on the context, you might have to set boundaries. Like, just say, I just don't think it's a good idea for you to come over and watch movies at my house. I don't think you should come and watch movies in my dorm room, because it's just sending, I think, a lot of the wrong ideas. I don't think we should just hang out the two of us anymore until maybe if things get less weird, but maybe we should just hang out in groups. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to set boundaries that kind of make it clear where you're really at and things, and remove confusion, because love, infatuation, they stir our emotions, and our emotions confuse us and make us do odd things and see things that aren't there and see things we want to be there. So there you go. There's my dating advice for the day. Almost Sideways, another patron who gets preferential treatment, asks, bell bottoms or tie-dye? That's my question. Neither. Bell bottoms or tie dye. Oh man, I don't. Yeah. Can I go naked on this? I don't want to wear either one of those. Yeah, those are two fashion senses that I've never gone with at any point in time in my life. I think I could more confidently do bell bottoms. I think that's something I could have a little bit more fun with and joke around, where tie-dye is just so in your face and bright that not my thing. So we are going to go with bell bottoms is what I would recommend. I would do and you do. There you go. All right, moving on to some questions about YouTube or YouTubers, YouTube type questions. Iker Alvarez asks, can you do a collaboration? Well, I've actually done like 30 or 40 collaborations, but I guess the question in particular is, can I do a collaboration with you? Or this is a general question. People ask me, hey, can we collaborate? It's just tricky. I get a lot of people kind of asking me, and I've already got a pretty full roster of things I'm doing with just weekly movies, TV shows, trying to put a couple editorials in each week, a ranking video, maybe 2 ranking videos each week. And so I'm doing a lot of stuff as is while having a job and a family. So in collaborations, to do them right and to do something that's beneficial really for both sides, that's a cool collaboration, not just, hey, I shot some video and kind of tossed it off, but to do one that it's a little bit more in depth than that, that's a little bit more satisfying and beneficial for both parties. It's tricky, because they take longer to edit. You have to shoot it, you have to upload it, you have to send it to someone, then the person has to edit 2 people together. So there's just a lot that goes into it. So it's tricky, and so I'm open to people asking to collaborate. I think the key thing is if you have something that seems like this would be an interesting thing for me to participate in, that benefits both of us, that I'm there and you're there and that we're working on something together, that's where it's more likely to happen. But just kind of generically, hey, should we do something? I get a lot of kind of generic requests like that it's just I can't sort through all of them, so I'm not able to do a lot of those types of just kind of generic, hey, let's do something type requests. Next question. Cody Leach asks, if there's a specific show, or Cody Leach asks, is there a specific movie, show, or YouTube channel that you put on for the background while editing? I find it hilarious that I have a horror-focused channel, and I often put on Disney Channel movies on while I edit. By the way, please don't read that second part during your video. Wait, you just did, didn't you? That last part was a little bit weird and strange. So what do I watch while I'm editing videos? It's a lot of times where I'll watch the movies I'm watching for ranking videos. So if I'm working, I just put out a Chucky one. I would edit my videos while watching Chucky movies. Or the week before that, it was Halloween movies. Other times, if I'm trying to catch up on YouTube channels and the guys that all the people I subscribe to, that's what I'll put on. I'll just kind of have switching back and forth between screens so I can watch and comment on something while typing up lower thirds or whatever else I'm doing. So I'll do things like that. But I don't have one specific thing that I put on while editing. It's very much how can I use this time? How can I double up with this time right now? So what do I need to watch? What do I need to have up on the background? What do I need to catch up on while I'm doing work? Which probably isn't the most efficient way to do either one of those things, but that's kind of where things have headed for me. Yeah, I think that, and there's also, I watch a lot, there's a number of TV shows I'm watching right now that I'm not talking about or reviewing on the channel just because they're not the types of shows people go online to talk about. But, I'll put on Law and Order in the background and edit a video. So if I miss something on Law and Order, I don't care. I mean, there's 1,000 episodes or whatever. They're all kind of the same. But I still watch Law and Order each week, so that's a good time to edit a video. So there you go. Next one up, we got a question from MCU. Who is your favorite YouTuber? Actually, I'll read this one right along with another one from Mike McRock asks, who would you consider as the Mount Rushmore of movie reviewers? So both of them kind of have the same sort of concept. Who are the top movie reviewer people that are important to it? So as for just who is my favorite, who's the person that I find the most useful and their input is the best, I would easily go with John Campea. John Campea, he started Movie Talk. Actually, before Movie Talk, it was AMC or not, even before it was AMC. He started on his own a thing called For Your Consideration. And then eventually he convinced AMC people to let him kind of grow it, take it on as an AMC project. So they did that. It grew very large. Then it got transferred over to Collider. And now he's left on and gone kind of his own thing. And they're continuing on with Movie Talk. But I would very much so go with John Campea. He's a bit of a frustrating guy because 90% of the time, I just think he just has the best insight, kind of the best holistic view of things. He is a fanboy. He is a movie lover. He can see it from other people's perspectives. He can see outside of just his own fanboydom while having fanboydom. And so he feels like I view movies. He thinks about them a lot of the ways that I think about movies. And so all of that makes for him to have good insight. And he's been doing this sort of thing that I've been doing over 10 years longer than I've been doing it. So it just has a lot more insight and depth into it. I kind of view him as like, what he's doing. That's what I would like to be doing. I very much enjoy what he does. Then there's 10% of the time where it's like he gets stubborn and locks his feet in the ground and his ability to empathize with others and think big picture feels like it goes out the window. And so he'll have these opinions and you're just like, huh? What? Like how are you not seeing what other people are seeing on this? Like you're making an argument that addresses 50% of what they're saying. That's kind of the big picture to it, but you're missing the thing that they're seeing. Like he'll talk about how there's, why is everything a sequel, a reboot, an adaptation? Why is that all that's getting released? And he'll go, it's not. 700 movies get released every single year. And, there's more original movies and original stories than ever before. Hollywood's just as creative as ever, which that's 50% of the answer. But then the other part is that, but the movies that Hollywood is taking the big risks on, that giving a bunch of money to, those are all sequels, adaptations, and there's a few exceptions with the Inceptions of the world and the Interstellars, Christopher Nolan movies. There are a few exceptions in this kind of big budget, even mid-budget. There's not only a few exceptions. There's a change in the industry from what it was 15, 20, 30 years ago to risk prevention. Clearly, it's very obvious to see that when it comes to the big blockbuster stuff. But the way he addresses it, he's talking about all of this low micro budget, direct to Netflix, direct to video stuff. And so he says stuff like that drives me nuts. So if I were to pick my favorite, I'd go with John Campea, even though that 10% just drives me nuts. Like, how do you not see the hole in what you're saying? I don't. So that's just, I'd love to sit down with him. Like, how do you not see that this hole there? Do you don't see the pattern? I don't get it. If I had to do a Mount Rushmore I, of course, put my Campia on there. Then if you look at kind of the top reviewer guys based on subscribers, influence, and who people talk about, obviously it's Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman. Then there's the nostalgia guy. I don't really watch the nostalgia guy stuff, but you have to put him up there. I guess you'd put the Red Letter Media, Mr. Plinkett up there. I guess that's the character, I know, but whichever the Mr. Plinkett guy, you throw his face up there. It's like his own wave of it, but very influential if you know what you're looking at there. If it should have been a month ago, we put Andy Signor up there and then we tear it down. So I think those are the ones that come to mind. Maybe the Everything Wrong with the CinemaSins guys, perhaps. So maybe those are the ones that seem to have the big influence. I'm sure I'm missing some major ones, but I would think who are the people that started some sort of movement. So John Campia has this whole movie talk. Let's talk about movie news in a certain way type thing that they started. The Screen Junkies is a very important part of YouTube in the movie sphere. CinemaSins, very important thing. Red Letter Media and their stuff's been pretty important. So those were the ways that I would think through that. All right. Chandler Videos asks, can you think of any YouTube comments that tried to told you but failed miserably? Yeah, someone posted, "You are retard. You are retard." And just posted that, which is a hilariously dumb thing to post that makes absolutely no sense and fails on all sorts of levels and is hilarious. It's an amazingly stupid comment to leave on someone's video. But you can look at my hate comments videos, my reading meme comments videos I've done before, and there's several dumb ones in there. Those are the best ones that I've gotten, that I've collected, that I remember. If I had some other ones, I would have put them in those videos. But those are the ones that would come to mind as the best. All right, the BS Review asks, what's your favorite video that you have ever created? All right, for that one, I'm going to go with my video on how to fix Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. I spent like 3 weeks kind of writing it and then several hours recording it and then like a week editing it. It's over 30 minutes long, pretty in-depth. It's basically a, video research report. So it kind of took some of the things I think I can do best, which is kind of think big picture and observe problems, offer solutions. And so it's real in depth, really cool video. And the problem was I put it out when my channel was still like under 500 subscribers, maybe right on 300 subscribers. So, it's not like I had, and my channel was also fairly new at that point in time. So all the things that would give me, when I post a video for it to get momentum and get some excitement, at the time I posted it, it didn't have any of those things. So I spent a month working on something and it got under 50 views in the first month or so, in which case it's pretty discouraging to put that much work into something. I mean, like a ton of work into it and not a ton of people watched it. And then as time's passed, I've plugged it, and almost every time people ask questions like this, and it's gotten more traction. So I think it has 10 times that many views now. So still fewer than I'd like for it to have, given the amount of work I put into it, but a respectable number of views on it. But a very cool video. And I say all that also to plug the fact, as of just a couple days ago, I started working on my next one of those. So my next one of those will be Phantom Menace, how to fix the Phantom Menace. I think that's a very fixable movie. I don't think it's a fundamentally broken movie. I think it's a somewhat superficially broken movie that, with a better director, better screenwriter, I think pretty safely there'd be a lot of people saying it's easily better than Return of the Jedi, debating it just based on the basic concept of the setup to it for action, adventure, Star Wars-y type things. Easily could have been right up there at that same level, but they had some broken things in it. So I got another one coming. That'll be December. I'll probably put it out just a few days before The Last Jedi comes out, would be my plan for that one. So I'm going to spend 2 months working on that one, and hopefully it gets more than 45 views when it first comes out. The BS Review also asks, what equipment was the best investment for your channel? I think the thing that's, in a certain sense, the most important, I think, is probably having good video editing software. But that also assumes you know how to use better video editing software. So that's a tough one to answer. But some of the stuff that just, with where technology's at, the camera on an iPhone, the mic on an iPhone, if you just kind of film it pretty close to your face, you can put up videos that are very solid quality with good quality. You need to get good lights, and you don't have to spend money on good lights. You just need to make sure you have lots of light in the room that you're in and not washed out. So you have to experiment with it. But even without getting fancy lights that I do, I was just using lights from the hardware store up until just 3 months ago. And so you can light yourself well enough for your iPhone to give you great kind of picture quality, and the mic can pick you up well enough if you keep it close. You can't be far away and you can't be in a noisy space, but your phone can do so much stuff. Whereas video editing stuff, you kind of need, there's a pretty big gap between the free stuff and the good stuff. And you're so limited and frustrated when you're kind of the lower type stuff. Like I couldn't edit a video using Movie Maker or iMovie or whatever, because I would just I feel like I'm just handcuffed, and I just might as well give up. But as soon as you have better stuff, you can put the titles on there, you can edit it properly, you can transition properly, you can do lower thirds, that stuff at the bottom where it says stuff. You can design your own kind of intro videos. I designed my own intro video. So I think video editing software is probably the one that makes the biggest difference. And likewise, if you can get some lighting so you're well lit, you might not light yourself properly, but if you have good video editing software, you can throw filters on it. You can improve your audio. You can filter out noise with Adobe Premiere. You can filter out noise in the background. You can EQ yourself. They've got several just kind of different things you can put on it that makes your mic sound better. You can color correct it. You can sharpen. You can do so many different things very easily with Adobe Premiere. So that's probably the one that makes the biggest difference. From there, of the other equipment I've actually bought, I'd say the least important one that I bought was this right here, my webcam. I use it. I'm glad I bought it, but I bought it later in the game compared to some of this other stuff. I also have a MacBook Pro, so it has a very good camera built into it. And the reason I bought this Logitech 920 is because you can actually adjust the settings on it to make it look the way you want and turn the autos off. Whereas with my laptop, I can't turn the auto off. And so I would go out of focus if I would move my hands around a lot, and it would adjust the colors. And so it would look funky and stuff. Whereas with this one, I can lock it in on the settings that I want. But that would be fairly minor. I think having a mic right here, my Blue Yeti, has been very useful because I can just plug it in and get great audio much easier than some of the other stuff that I was doing. And when you're talking about stuff, you want to have good audio. Lights have been great. I mean, I'm big fan of what I did before of dirt cheap, just kind of these canned lights shooting them at me. But as soon as I got real lights, I immediately went, okay, I mean, yeah, I get why people get studio lights and they just don't put can lights everywhere. It's stupid. They all have pretty big bonuses to them. Kind of depends on what you're like. If you're in a space that's that has great lighting in and of itself, you don't need to buy lights. If you have a MacBook Pro that's less than 3 years old or less than 4 years old, you don't need to get a webcam. You've got one already. And so then a mic is the thing that you really need. And that's the way you think through kind of what do you have, what can you pull off, and where are your videos just, I don't know, struggle. So, all right, next one I got. I guess the last one I've got, Almost Sideways, another patron getting that preferential treatment. What has been one of the hardest things to review or talk about on your channel? That's a pretty easy one, I think. That would be the movie The Glass Castle. Movie came out in August of this year. Extraordinarily divisive, just kind of like right down the middle. Half the people that saw it went, this is offensive. This is morally repugnant. I can't believe that they would make a movie trying to celebrate this person, telling this story in this way, trying to make an inspirational story out of this monster. And then the other half of us go, and maybe actually, I'd actually put myself, it's probably, and there's 10% of us that go, I think you're just fundamentally misunderstanding this movie. Like you don't know I know why you're saying that. You're not wrong in watching the movie and interpreting it that way. And so I'm not going to tell you to try and like the movie. I'm not going to tell you that, everyone should love this movie. I get why you would watch the movie and feel that way. But I think that that's a fully 100% wrong interpretation of the movie. And the reason it's hard to talk about is because of my own personal experience. And I watched this movie and I went, this movie is doing it. It's articulating my own sense of nostalgia, my feelings towards my own troubled childhood with alcoholism in my own family and sorts of things going on in my family that were very troubling, things I didn't even properly interpret, probably as abuse until I was an adult. And I went, whoa, wow, there was some abuse in my childhood. I didn't even realize it at the time. And so they're not fun to talk about. And this movie captured a certain sense and feeling of the way that I would communicate my childhood. And it would have a very confusing tone to it because I loved my father, loved my family, in a lot of ways, enjoyed great parts of my childhood. And a lot of these insane things happen and weird things happen where my dad was drunk and did things he shouldn't do, that the way I tell those stories has the wrong tone. If you're interpreting me telling you my story, you'd say, why are you telling that this isn't a funny story? This is a horrible story, but it's a funny story to me. And that's because it's my story and it's my own experience. And that's the way I processed it and did something with it. And so then talking about the movie is difficult because it's a movie dealing with very heavy, weighty personal subject matter. It's difficult to talk about because in talking about it, the reason that I like it is because it resonated with me so much on a personal level in regards to very troubling parts of my memory. And then likewise, the reason it's extremely difficult to talk about is because so many people are watching it and having such a wildly different interpretation of it. And they're saying things that what I'm communicating is, this is articulating my feelings about my childhood. That's why I think that this is doing something very well. And they're saying, no, it's communicating this. No, it's communicating this. And they're talking about a movie. I'm talking about my personal experience. And so then it's almost a personal, it's like I'm feeling like I'm misunderstood. I'm feeling like people don't understand me because they don't understand this movie. The movie I have nothing to do with. I've seen it one time. I haven't even read the book or anything. I've seen a movie one time. And because people are misunderstanding it, I take that kind of personally because it communicates to me people can't understand the way I think about my childhood, the way I think about it. If they can't understand this movie, and this movie communicated it so well, and it's like finally they get it. Someone's putting it out there the way some of us feel about our childhood. I guess people will never understand my feelings towards my childhood, and I got into several heated debates about it because it wasn't just talking about a movie; it was like a personal thing for me. And if someone goes into it again, it'll become very personal to me once again. And at the same time, I get if they said I didn't like it, it didn't work, I got this whole wrong thing from it. I get where you're coming from, but then. So that's why it's difficult to talk about because it's so personal to my experience as a person, being the filter in which I saw the movie and then relating to it on a lot of deeper levels. And if you don't relate to those deeper levels, then you get a very different interpretation from this movie. All right, there we go. There we have it. There's these first Q&A talking about the non-movie TV stuff, talking about other types of things. So yeah, there you go. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, watching all that fun stuff. And if you're new to my channel and you've never subscribed before and you're checking out this video for the very first time, weird pick, it's a Q&A video, but hey, that's cool. Please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, and from time to time I do Q&As, just like this one you're watching right now. But I don't want to just talk about movies, I want to talk about movies with you, so please consider joining me in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.